Hi, my little monkeys. I am here presenting this video to you. It is called the Daily Language Review Checklist, and this should help you with your daily language review. At least I hope that it does. In your daily language review, you have a lot of capitalization problems, spelling problems, and punctuation. We are going to start with capitalization. The things you must capitalize are the beginning of a sentence. Also, any proper noun. Proper noun is anything that names something, like Jaden Duenas. He is a student in our class, and that is a proper noun. Riverside Prep is the name of our school, so we capitalize that. State Street is the specific name of a street, so we capitalize that. Also, the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on, are all capitalized. The months of the year, January, February, March, and holidays such as Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, New Year's Day. And then titles such as Doctor, Mrs., and Junior. Those are all capitalized. When you are looking for those spelling errors, make sure you read aloud. Make sure the words sound right in sentences. For instance, in the sentence, Aaliyah baked a cake Sunday, I know that the CK makes a short sound. Therefore, the word is not baked. So make sure your tenses are correct as well with your spelling errors. You wouldn't say Aaliyah bake a cake either. You would say either Aaliyah bakes a cake, meaning something that she regularly does, or Aaliyah baked a cake, something she already did, and that would be past tense. Also, you would never say I has candy. That's not right, but you could say he has candy, or you could say I have candy. In spelling, homophones are words that sound the same, but they're spelled differently and they have different meanings. So we have to be careful of that. Good example are the words there, and there. This spelling, T-H-E-I-R, is a possessive form, as in their house. It is their house. It belongs to them. There is the contraction there, which that should be easy to figure out because you're missing a letter, so you know it's actually two words there, they and are. So there with the contraction means they are getting ready to leave. There is also a place, and you might want to know if you take off this T, you've got here, and if you exchange the T with a W, you have where. They're all places. So there, this is a place, as in put the books over there. Another spelling problem that you have to be on the lookout for are plurals. When you have party ends with a Y. It's got that long E sound. Well, when we pluralize it, we drop the Y, or we change the I rather, or change the Y to an I and add ES. And then if we have something that ends in double S, CH, SH, any kind of word, X, those are all going to end in ES once we pluralize it, because you can't even say church. You can't even say it with just an S. You have to have that ES there. Church is. So your plurals are something that you have to be aware of when you're doing your spelling as well. In addition to other problems that you're going to find on your DLR, punctuation. Punctuation involves a whole slew of things to look for. Periods. You find periods, of course, you know, at the end of sentences, but also at the end of abbreviations. So if we had the month November to abbreviate it, it would be NOV, capital NOV, and then a period at the end. Exclamation points, those can end sentences instead of a period. And it's used to express strong feelings such as excitement, surprise, or even anger. If you're mad, you might want to have an exclamation point at the end of that sentence. Also, exclamation points can be used at the end of a quote that is not the end of the sentence. And here's an example. "It's my birthday," Ziri shouted. So this is all one sentence. "It is my birthday," Ziri shouted. The sentence actually ends this time at the period. If we just had the sentence, "It's my birthday," that would be it, but then we have Ziri shouted. So you would never have a period here, but you could have a question mark and you could have an exclamation point. And then a period would always be at the end. If you have a period at the end, this then would be a comma. Punctuation, more punctuation. You have the question mark. If the sentence begins with a question word, it needs a question mark. Question words include the 6 W's and the H. And what I mean by the 6 W's, who, what, which, why, when, where, and the H is how. Also, same word families, could, would, should. Those are all question words, and they all need to be capitalized. And then there are other question words such as are, can, do, have, is, were, will, and any form of these words. And the example I give here is do, did, and even does. It's all the same word. It's just a different form. Like, do you? Do you like to read? Did you like that book? Does he like that book? So it's all the same word. It is just a different tense in each example there that I used. More punctuation. A comma is actually a pause in reading. It's used to set off items in a series. Like, for instance, I'm going to the store to get milk, eggs, and bread. If there are 3 items, there are 2 commas, as we've been talking about. If there are 4 items, there are 3 commas, and so on and so forth. Before someone begins speaking in a text, you also need a comma. For instance, down here we have Antonio said, pause, quote, "I just live down the street, period," end quote. So we always use a comma right before that person begins to speak. We're giving it a little pause so you know that Antonio's saying this, not me, not you, Antonio. More punctuation. You use a lot of commas in writing, and you use it as a separator. For instance, November 11th, 2017, we need a comma between these 2 numbers, the 11th and the year. The 11th is the actual date, and 2017 is the year. You also use it to separate the city from the state. For instance, our school is in Oro Grande, California. So you heard the pause, I hope. Our school is in Oro Grande, California. It's a pause separating the city from state. Also, in a letter, after a greeting, "Dear Ayani," and then you would go on and, write the rest of the letter. And then in the closing, at the very end, you make your last sentence, and then you say, "Your friend, Samantha." And again, you should hear the pause there. "Your friend, Samantha." Dear Ayani, I hope you're doing well. More punctuation, a pause in reading. When adding 2 complete thoughts together with a conjunction, the comma goes before the conjunction. And I know we haven't talked about this yet, but we will soon. This is an example of what I'm talking about. I can have the sentence, "We can eat at home," or "We can go out to eat," or is my conjunction. It ties these 2 thoughts together. Now, "we can eat at home" could be a complete sentence, and "we can go out to eat" could also be a complete sentence. Okay? When we join these 2 complete thoughts, we use a comma. So, other conjunctions include and, but, for, nor, or, so, and yet. Like, I really would love to have many cats, but I only have one. And you should have heard that comma right there, but I only have one. All right. Now, moving on, there's the apostrophe. We have learned about this. We use apostrophes in contractions to signify there is a letter or there are letters missing. For instance, cannot. For some reason, this is how you spell cannot, like a compound word. But when we go to use it as a contraction, we have the apostrophe there for the missing N, because one N is missing and one O is missing. Well, there's only one O in the word. So there's an N and an O missing. We have the apostrophe right there. The other example is do not becomes don't. We merge the words together. We make it one syllable. Instead of saying do not, it's don't. We don't have a second O in there, so we have an apostrophe in its place. Will not is a weird one, and there's also some history to it, but I'm not going to go into that. Will not somehow becomes won't. This is the only obscure contraction, and it's just something that you have to memorize it. In old times, we would say won't, but then it changed to won't. And anyway, so this is how we spell the contraction won't for will not. More on the apostrophe. It's used to show possession, as in Jessica's jacket, the jacket that belongs to Jessica. And another example, maybe not something exactly you would say that belongs to someone, but it's something that someone or something has. For instance, the cat's tail. The cat that belongs to the cat, the tail that belongs to the cat, or the cat has the tail. It's the cat's tail. All right, moving on. Quotation marks. Quotation marks are used frequently, always before someone begins talking in text and when someone is done speaking. So you have your beginning quote marks and your end quote marks, which we've talked about plenty of times. But we also use quotation marks to let readers know when they're reading about a movie or a book. For instance, I could say Toad and Frog Are Friends is a really good book. And then so that you know that this is a book, I have my quotation mark around Toad and Frog Are Friends. That is the title of the book. Also, this is the example of it being used when someone speaks. Mario said, comma, quote, I love learning new things, end quote. So we know that he's speaking there, and the punctuation then would go inside the quote. And let's see. Is that it? I believe that's it. So always remember when you are doing your daily language review to really, really read and reread your sentences to where you know that you are catching everything, and pay attention to how many errors there are in each sentence, and what kind of errors there are. Because if you do not have, for instance, quotations when someone's talking, that's end quote and beginning quote, that's 2 points off. And then if you put something somewhere else instead, that's another point off. So we get really persnickety with all this. So hopefully this video will help you.